So we come to the second in a series on faith and film, looking at contemporary movies for the issues that they're addressing, for the questions that they're asking that may be even a little bit deeper than we know, and also just to learn to look at all the world with the eyes of faith, because that's what particularly our Presbyterian heritage tells us, that faith, one way to think of it, is a way of seeing the world. And so learning to look at the media out there with the eyes of faith is part of really living the life of faith. And today we turn perhaps to an unlikely film called Inside Out, which is a Pixar animated CGI movie that appears to be aimed at kids, and it certainly is. But as a French priest once said, he said there are two things he's learned in all of his ministry. He said first is that people never grow up. And the second's less important. He meant it sort of bad, I think, that we always, we never really get mature, but I think there's something good about never growing up too. There's a child in all of us, and Pixar movies, whether it's the one about the fish, which one's that? Okay, Finding Nemo, yeah, okay. Or this one, they have something to say to the child in all of us. So today we're going to look at the movie Inside Out, just for fun. Who's seen it? If you haven't, you might want to after this. It's worth it. So meet Riley. Riley is an 11-year-old girl who lives in Minnesota. Where else would she live? She is a happy kid. She has a mom and a dad who love her. She has great friends, and she plays hockey. Riley, 11 years old. Now meet Riley's brain. Or at least meet the 5 voices who are speaking to her through her brain. These are the 5 emotions. On the left you see sadness. Second from left, the upside down one, joy. Obviously the one in the middle is anger, then disgust, and last, fear. All these 5 characters, they love Riley dearly. And it's their job to give Riley the best life they can, to manage her emotions, to manage her response, to manage her reaction to everything that goes on outside of her. So here they are, sitting at the command center. Joy is in the middle, because Joy is in control. Joy is the one who wants to make sure, most of all, that everything goes well. Joy takes her responsibilities very seriously. Disgust, fear, and anger, they all work together to keep Riley safe. But Joy really is not sure what it is that sadness does. What's the purpose of sadness? Joy sees none. Now here's Joy with all the marbles. Each marble looks like a marble, but each one is actually a memory. And here Joy is surveying the bank of the most recent memories of Riley's life. And the gold marbles are the happy memories. And as you can see, for this 11-year-old girl, most of her memories are happy. Now she's got a green one here or there for disgust. She's got a red one for anger, purple one for fear, and just one up there, a blue one for sadness. Now Joy understands. She gets what disgust and anger and fear can do to protect Riley. She sees how they fit into the scheme, but sadness, Joy doesn't get it all. In fact, at one point, sadness, the blue character, says, "What can I do to help? What can I do to help Riley be happy?" And Joy draws a circle in chalk on the floor and says, "Stay inside the circle. Just stay inside the circle." Which is a pretty good image of repressing your sadness. Joy is especially protective of core memories. Core memories are those that are the foundation for Riley's sense of self. For Riley, that is based on family, and friendship, and identity, and hockey, goofball. That's part of one of her centers of identity. Now, the film will eventually take us to different centers of the brain, like long-term memory, and it has some really unique and clever ways of visualizing all those different places in Riley's brain. It's very clever, mostly, not completely, but mostly, psychologists say, a reasonably accurate representation of how our brains work. Now here, Riley doesn't look too happy, and she's not. She has just moved with her parents from Minnesota to San Francisco, and things are not going well. It's a crisis for this 11-year-old, and she is finding out, as we all do, that even when your life is pretty good, the world is not always a happy place. So now we can take a moment and you can look at the trailer for Inside Out, and you'll be able to follow at least some of what's happening here.
So, Riley, how was the first day of school?
Fine, I guess.
Did you guys pick up on that?
Sure did.
Something's wrong. Signal the husband.
She's looking at us. What did she say?
Oh, sorry, sir. No one was listening.
Garbage night. We left the toilet seat up. What is it, woman? What?
I'm joy. This is sadness. That's anger.
What?
This is disgust. And that's fear. We're Riley's emotions. These are Riley's memories. They're mostly happy, you'll notice, not to brag.
I wanted to maybe hold one.
What happened? Sadness?
She did something to the memory.
Is everything okay?
I don't know.
Take it back, Joy.
Great.
Joy, no,
Let's
wait.
go.
The core memories. Can I say that curse word now?
What do we do now?
Nothing's working. Why isn't it working?
We have a major problem.
Oh, I wish Joy was here.
We can fix this. We just have to get back to headquarters.
That's long-term memory. You could get lost in there.
Think positive.
Okay, I'm positive you will get lost in there.
What was that? Was it a bear?
Think about bears in San Francisco.
I saw a really hairy guy. He looked like a bear.
This place is huge. Imagination Land? No way. Dream Productions? Rainbow Unicorn? She's right there. I loved you in Fairy Dream Adventure Part 7. Okay, bye. I love you. You can't focus on what's going wrong. There's always a way to turn things around. It's Broccoli.
Congratulations, San Francisco. You ruined pizza. Who's the birthday girl? Brain freeze!
Hang on. Riley, here we come.
So as you can tell from the trailer, Riley's having a tough time adjusting to her new home. She isn't sure how to deal with it, and the voices inside her head are not sure how to deal with it either. Especially Joy. She just doesn't know what to do next. You might have seen that moment in the trailer where sadness got a hold of a core memory, a happy memory, like the friendships that Riley had. But sadness touches it and the memory turns blue. A gold memory becomes a blue one. A happy memory becomes a sad one because she's separated from her friends. Now, Joy tries to keep sadness from touching things after that happens. But sadness can't help herself. And eventually, everything gold is at risk. Joy and sadness end up on a journey through the rest of the brain, trying to restore Riley's happiness. Now, in this movie, it seems like Joy's doing the right thing. She's trying to keep Riley happy. She'll do anything to keep Riley from experiencing those moments, those feelings that might bring her down. And in the beginning of the movie, you think she is doing the right thing, but then then things go badly, and joy doesn't have the answer either. And you know, sometimes it's our families that insist upon the positive, the upbeat, the optimistic, and hold at arm's length anything else. The movie shows her parents very subtly saying, "Where's our cheerful girl? Where's our cheerful girl?" Which on the one hand is a perfectly understandable thing to say, and on the other hand encourages Riley all the more to just keep whatever it is that's bothering her at a distance. Sometimes we do this to ourselves. We refuse to allow ourselves to feel anything that's not positive. And then the perils of repression, putting sadness in that circle and not allowing it to get out. The perils are there. And sometimes our faith does that too, I think. Sometimes we think that because we wear the name Christian, because God has given us life, because God's given us forgiveness, because God's given us Jesus, that we should just be upbeat and joyful all the time. And if we're not, sometimes we feel like a fraud. Sometimes I think the songs we sang there are so grateful and so relentlessly cheerful and grateful and glad about what God's done for us that it doesn't leave room to feel another way. And we might feel, well, somehow I'm not really Christian. I'm not really a person of faith because I don't feel that way all the time. And for all these things, the Psalms are a wonderful gift for us. The Psalms, the prayer book of the people of God. And what do they say? They have, like the one that Terry read for us a moment ago, the 92nd Psalm. It's good to give thanks to you, O Lord. At the work of your hands I sing for joy. Make a joyful noise, all the earth. They're wonderful, glad, and joyful psalms. The Psalms are not just that. The Psalms have joy, but also despair. The Psalms are full of faith, but also doubt. The Psalms are full of peace, but also anger. Here's one, the 42nd Psalm. As a deer longs for flowing streams, so my soul longs for you, O God. My soul thirsts for God, for the living God. When shall I come and behold the face of God? My tears have been my food day and night, while people say to me continually, where is your God? These things I remember as I pour out my soul, how I went with the throng and led them in procession to the house of God with glad shouts and songs of thanksgiving, a multitude keeping festival. Interesting. I remember those things. I'm trying to hold on to those things, those good moments. But then, why are you cast down, O my soul? Why are you disquieted within me? Then hanging on to God. Hope in God, for I shall again praise Him, my help and my God. Remarkably, amazingly, these words are in the Bible. This is part of our relationship with God. Joy and gratitude and thanksgiving. But also isolation and sorrow, even depression. The Psalms give us permission to feel all these things and to know that we are still connected to God, that it's not unfaithful, that it's not wrong. It's part of a living relationship with God. And so the whole book of Psalms together are a great gift, and each psalm, depending on where we are in life's journey, each individual one can be a gift to us as they lift up feelings we may not even be able to put into words. Lift them up to God, not to be fixed, but just as part of the ongoing connection with a real, living, genuine God who wants to connect to real, living, genuine people. Now you may recall that we left joy and sadness on a journey through Riley's brain, trying to restore her happiness. At the beginning, Joy is quite sure that sadness is a liability, and sadness does not disagree. But these two feelings, which seem so counter to one another, they have a number of adventures along the way, and they even find something of a Christ figure. I'm not going to tell you the whole movie. Watch it for yourselves. But Joy learns to her surprise that sadness doesn't destroy happiness. Sadness is not something destructive after all. Sadness is, yes, a legitimate emotion that needs and deserves to be expressed. But even more, Joy discovers that it's sadness that allows her to reconnect to her parents. It's not joy, it's sadness that allow Riley's parents to realize what their girl is experiencing is really the same thing they're experiencing. That they're all sad about this wonderful life they have left, yes, in Minnesota. But that allows them to restore that connectedness to their daughter. It's not joy, it's not some happy moment, it's sharing their loss that enables them to find something that really is like joy, something that's beyond happiness, something that doesn't depend on our momentary circumstances. It depends on love. For Riley's case, the love of her family. And for all of us, the love of a God who will not let us go. So Riley's predicament is not fixed by her parents, but it's understood by them and shared by them. And it's in the understanding and the sharing that Riley begins to move out of her depression and her sorrow. It's acknowledging her sadness that enables her to step back towards something like joy. I thought it was really interesting that this character was named Joy. It seemed to me this character should have been named Happy. Because in the beginning of the movie, she's just trying to keep Riley happy. But then, in the Bible, lots of times God changes people's names. Abram becomes Abraham. Jacob becomes Isaac when they reach a different level. I think this character who should have been named Happy really becomes Joy when she realizes the role that sadness, as well as these other emotions, play in bringing a joy to Riley that is deeper than just a momentary circumstance. And that's where I think Inside Out speaks to something deeper, something more powerful, to a grace, a love, a joy that will not let us go. Pray with me. Gracious God, we're grateful for all the emotions you give us, for the ways in which together they can point us toward your joy that is at the heart of all things. We pray in the name of Christ, our Savior, who came that our joy might be complete. Amen.